and welcome to episode 7 of Games Every Designer Should Play, a podcast that explores what aspiring and seasoned designers can learn from some of the greatest games of all time. I'm Stuart Lilford, the clown prince of game design, and I'm joined by two burly Titan-infused henchmen.
I'm Batman.
No, you're a burly Titan-infused henchman.
No.
Do one of them.
I'm Batman.
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
I'm Adrian Mills.
And I'm David Grant.
Brilliant. I would love to tell you're not going to do a burly Titan-infused henchman
How am I supposed to do that?
impression? Yeah,
There you go.
that's it. You
There
did
you
it.
go.
In each episode, we'll be discussing... Right, enough of that.
Okay.
In each episode, we'll be discussing one essential game and what we can learn from it. At the end of the episode, one of us will reveal to the others the game we must play for the next episode. Will it be beloved by all, or could it be controversial? You'll have to listen all the way to the end to find out. It's Adrian's turn to choose today. Will he succumb once more to recency bias and choose literally the last game he played, or will he finally make me play Dark Souls? We'll soon find out.
You'll soon find out.
We'll soon find out. But for this episode, the game we'll be discussing is Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Fair warning, this podcast is going to contain spoilers for Batman Arkham Asylum, so if you haven't played it, we're going to spoil it. So just go away and play it. That's kind of the whole point of this podcast, is you kind of play the games
Yes.
as we're discussing them. But first, a few notes on Batman Arkham Asylum, because this was my choice. I've got a few notes here. Batman Arkham Asylum is a 2009 action-adventure game by UK-based Rocksteady Studios, developed after Eidos tasked the then little-known studio with creating a prototype. Once greenlit, DC Comics enlisted Batman the Animated Series writer Paul Dini to craft the narrative, while Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill and Arlene Sorkin reprised their iconic roles as Batman, the Joker and Harley Quinn respectively. The game includes mechanics such as Freeflow Combat, stealth-based Predator gameplay, detective vision, and a Metroidvania-inspired structure that encourages exploration. Set in Gotham's infamous Arkham Asylum, it immersed players in a rich, atmospheric world while honouring its source material. Widely regarded as one of the greatest superhero games ever, it redefined the superhero game as a genre and held the Guinness World Record for most critically acclaimed superhero game ever, with a Metacritic score of 91.67, only to be surpassed by its sequel, Arkham City. So it clearly did a lot of things right, but what can we, as designers, learn from it?
That's a niche award.
What, the Guinness World Record for
Yeah.
most critically acclaimed superhero game ever?
That's niche. How many? I mean, there's obviously been quite a lot.
Do you think we could set where we've got the Guinness World Record for best podcast that's about what every designer should play?
Absolutely. We should be honoured by
They
Guinness.
need to pay for them as well.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
They probably just went to them. They're like, "Can we have this?"
And they went, yeah, okay. Give us some money. Guinness World Records is a racket.
Do you reckon there's one for like the least critically acclaimed superhero game as well?
That's a very strong category. There's a lot of
Why would you
competition.
want to
Yeah.
A lot of
Why would you pay
competition.
for that, though?
I mean, I'd always go back to the Atari 2600 version of Superman, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
What as a good superhero game?
What can we learn?
Yeah. Anyway, back to
Anyway.
Batman Arkham. What can we learn from it? I'm interested because obviously myself and Adrian played the game when it came out. David, you had it like
Yeah.
flew past you like a winged bat in the night.
Because I'm like I like Batman. I like I'm not a massive fan of DC, I guess, in the sense I haven't consumed a lot of media from it, but I like Batman as a whole. The start of it for me was interesting because like getting into the combat, I'm more used to sort of Souls-like combat, and this was the what's it called, the free flow combat.
Yeah.
It's almost more like a rhythm game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's more about keeping the flow and sort of comboing, and the combat is less about like how accurate you are, and it's more about just comboing your attacks together, making sure you're not getting hit and stuff like that. So that took a little bit of getting used to, because I was kind of going at it from like a Soulsborne attitude of like
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah, you can't.
No, it's not that.
Yeah, no.
It's interesting you say it was like a rhythm game, because like when I think in interviews with the developers, the combat system did kind of start off
Oh,
like that.
right.
It was kind of like this
Yeah.
rhythm based combat,
Yeah.
which they kind of stripped down into what it became.
But in the end, I really enjoyed that combat, because like you feel you feel very strong, like as Batman, because there's less focus on like how accurate you are, and more about just the flow and the combos and stuff. So when you're kind of hitting people, they go down in what, like 3 hits or something usually.
So it depends.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 hits, or at least they fall over.
Yeah.
And then get back up again. So you do kind of feel.
Yeah, it
like
is so satisfying when you
Batman,
when you get your punches in, and then you stun them, you whiz your batarang across, you use the bat claw, you're kicking, you're countering, you're doing all this stuff, and then they're all, if you get your combos absolutely perfect, you really do feel like Batman at the end of it. Conversely, when you mess up, you feel like the biggest idiot ever.
You punch in the wrong direction.
Yeah, you just punch thin air, and then a guy comes behind you and just goes slap.
Yeah, and you like a lot of the combat, you get sound feedback when you're fighting. So obviously, if you hit someone, you get a satisfying smack, and if you miss, you get that like. When,
I hate that.
Your
noise.
combo fails.
Yeah,
you feel terrible.
Pretty early for a criticism, but it makes that noise just when you finish, when you come out of your combo, regardless, when enough time has lapsed, so you can't continue it anymore. It makes that noise. So even if you've perfectly streamed all your combat with this group of henchmen and they're all down, it will still make that noise. I kind of feel like they could have, done a little check to see are all the enemies taken care of, and have they completed the combat. Then have a little more uplifting sound. Yeah, maybe that's a kind of really minor criticism.
There was one bit right towards the end when you're just about to see the Joker, and you have a load of henchmen cheering in the corridor, and I was just gonna walk through, and I was like, I could get a really high combo here. And then I start, you start fighting, and then you get that achievement for.
You can just walk through it.
Yeah, but
I did this time around. I've beat them all up in the past, and I was like,
I beat them all up.
Yeah, but combat is it was very satisfying.
That sequence reminded me of I'd said to you the other day. It reminded me of the seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
The fight scene in the corridor where it's all whizzing around. It reminds me of that, obviously in a video game form, and also there's a film called Old Boy as well, with a fight down a corridor with a hammer. Similar kind of thing. But it's very much a power fantasy, and like just how many's in there? There's about 20 of them, is there?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, none of them have got stun or
they're just normal goons.
Yeah, you've powered up everything. You've perfected your combat, and this is an opportunity for you to like really just kind of one last go before defeating the final boss. Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So you enjoyed it overall?
Yeah, overall. There's definitely, I guess there's a few like minor criticisms. So like with the environment is like, it's great. Yeah, it looks amazing. You've got this like really kind of gritty, low saturated like feel to everything, and it feels like you're trapped on this island in an asylum. They kind of like, I'm complimenting it now, but
this is a weird criticism.
Yeah, I'll get to it in a second. You kind of it's sort of split into like 3 sections, isn't it? Where you've got like a little tunnel to kind of go into another area. I guess to help with
the loading
and stuff. The detective mode, it's obviously extremely useful, but to the point where I was using it like 80-90% of the time, and then I didn't get to see the environment a lot of it. So I was so focused on like looking at enemies and looking for clues and like broken walls and stuff like that I didn't spend enough time to actually appreciate how nice the environment looks. Because it's such a condensed environment, like all of the kind of like set dressing, every environment you go into, just it feels like, well, not full of life, but it feels like it's
crafted. It's a really well crafted space.
And on top of that, you've got like all of the kind of really cool Easter eggs and sort of little Riddler puzzles where you can kind of scan objects, which I didn't realize you could do until about halfway through the game.
Yeah, David was telling me about this. So even though they tutorialize it at the beginning with the first Riddler like challenge, it's almost like he immediately forgot that he did that as soon as he'd done it, and so never scanned the environment to solve the riddle until very late on in the game.
Did you find the very first Riddler challenge in the opening combat room as well in the vent?
Which was it, the trophy or
the little question mark? Did you find that? You went in there and found that? Okay, right.
I don't know.
Can you miss that?
I might.
Well, it's an event, isn't it? You don't have to go in there.
Yeah.
In that first bit where the goons and you fight them, and then you carry on towards Joker. He's up the stairs, and you carry on. You find a little puzzle thing. But there's a little vent in the corner. You go in there, and that's the first Riddler.
Yeah.
Riddler.
Is it in the Riddler's room? Because his cell's in there, isn't it?
No, it's an event system. It's in a little event system.
Yeah, but that's one criticism I have. It's kind of a weird criticism.
The detective mode.
Yeah, because it's like the detective mode is so good that.
That is quite a widely held criticism of the game, that it is it's almost the it's the play to win button.
Yeah. So it's almost as if you could do with being able to tag things whilst in detective mode. Then when you come out of it, those things are still tagged in the environment almost. It's like if there's tag your enemies, and then you can come out, and then you can actually kind of appreciate.
Because the thing with that is that you tend to use it, especially when you're doing the Predator sequences of swinging around.
Stealth.
You just stay in defective mode because you can see him running around. If you don't, because it has, what's it, 2008 this came out, wasn't it? It has a 2008 colour palette.
Yeah.
Which is browns and dark, and it's Batman.
And it fits really well.
It fits, but
a grim colour palette.
It's hard to sometimes pick out where the henchmen are running around and when they're underneath you and whatever.
And the detective mode has it has very low contrast environment, but high contrast enemies and points of interest.
Yeah, they're neon. They're lit with neon sort of thing.
They're red.
Well, they're either blue or red. The red if they've got guns, and blue if they're normal.
And orange for the interactable.
Yeah, so you can swing around, and so I found myself. You find yourself using that, and it is a widely held thing against it. But it's one of those. It's so powerful.
Yeah,
it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
But to be fair, this is held as like pretty much the first game that really included this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it became it's so good that it became a standard in video games. This just sort of Lara Croft gets eagle stuff or whatever, visions. There's all kinds of different visions. The Witcher vision. So this became a staple of video games. It's like press this button and you can enhance your abilities to see where to go.
Yeah, it's non-intrusive in the way that it doesn't. It's not just like paint slathered on a wall or something to show you what to do as well. Like it fits in with the setting.
Yeah, Batman. It would make sense that he got this thing, this vision that allows him to kind of read the heart rates of people around him.
I will say, I was a bit taken out of it when he's like, I'm tracking his breath through the air, and like,
why not? What's wrong with that?
Because it was like, I don't know. It seems so high tech, and then like, there's all these like. I
don't know if you've walked around campus when there's people vaping, but you could be like, I can smell candy floss.
Yeah, I know.
You can track people's breath even without detecting. It's
just you're like walking along and there's like little spots of these like, I don't know. I found it funny. That's all.
It's very video gamey.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to just rewind and just talk about kind of. I wanted to kind of. Talk about my relationship with this game and the time it came out, because like I was a big fan of the animated series growing up as a kid, and so and this was like shortly after the Dark Knight, was it? When the Dark Knight came out?
So, yeah,
I think
it was around.
It was.
And so I love the Tim Burton movies and even Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I loved watching those movies when I was younger, and yeah, I'm not a massive comic book nerd.
You are a nerd, though.
Yeah, I'm a massive nerd, but I'm not a massive comic book nerd. But Batman is easily like my favourite one, and I've read a load of the graphic novels. But I'm not a massive Batman. I'm not a massive nerd. Well, I probably am about it. Right. So I want to show you a picture. And this was me on my birthday. Around about the time that this game came out, and I'm just gonna hand it to you. I want you to just describe what you see.
Oh my god! All right,
I don't want to.
So there's a very concerned-looking dog, and then
there is a dog photo bombing in the picture.
Stuart with a scary grin.
That's my grin.
Almost akin to the Joker. He's got a Batman mug.
Yep.
A Batman. What even is that? Just like a lunchbox.
Yeah,
almost.
It's lunchbox. Yeah.
Batman pajama bottoms.
Yep.
Batman shirt as well.
Yeah, the hoodie's also got
Batman hoodie. Yeah.
Is that hat also?
Yeah, the hat's a Batman hat.
Yeah, you've got like the.
And the Batman board game.
Board game. Yeah. Zoom in on the socks as well.
The socks as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a little birthday boy. And a dog that looks kind of concerned that this is happening as well.
So that's how into Batman I was at the time. I'm like I couldn't take it or leave it now, but I was massively into Batman at the time this game came out. So playing this, I was just like, it was like the perfect game for me, and I just really kind of just loved it and soaked it all in. And as an adaptation as well, the fact that it wasn't just tying with a movie or anything, it was its own standalone thing. And I think in terms of things that designers can take from this, I think just the way to do adaptation is to try and take the universe and just put your own spin on it, not to try and just follow along with the pre-existing.
That's just the angle that they took for the first Riddick game as well. Chronicles Riddick. Not Salt and Butcher Bay, is it? I think the first one. The Xbox game where you play as early Riddick before the film Pitch Black. It's the same thing. It's not based, but it's fantastic.
And the recent Spider-Man games as well. I've basically done that, haven't they?
I remember watching something where they were talking about cut content from Batman Arkham Asylum as well. And I think originally they wanted to include Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Except he didn't fit in with the Joker's motivations.
Yes. Yeah.
So they were like, all right, we just need to cut him.
Yeah, because he wouldn't as a character. He wouldn't care about what the Joker wants. The Joker wants to do this, that, or the other. He'd just go off and do his own thing. And so they were they were very selective about which characters.
You just find his cell, don't you?
Yeah. You find his cell.
That was pretty.
And that's the thing. You find so many nods to the Batman universe. And for me, as a massive bat nut at the time. This was great. Going, this is Calendar Man's cell because it's got all the little calendar pages all around it. And it was
because even though I'm not a massive Batman fan, I would still spot all those little things. I'm like, that's cool because you basically scan these different environmental. I mean, it's environmental storytelling really. The little Easter eggs that you have around the level, and then you get what is it, a data entry or whatever?
Yeah, you get character bios and stuff.
Interviews.
Yeah, and it was just enjoyable kind of going through those and
I have a question about this, right? So, it's really great that it has all these nods to kind of Batman lore or whatever. Do you think something like that would work with an original IP? Or are there examples of that already existing, where basically they've set up this original world and there's loads of nods to things within that world?
That's what the Souls games do.
I haven't played the Souls games, as you know.
I mean, Dark Souls has references to Vinheim, Kareem, loads of places where you never go. But there are people from those places, there are objects from those places which talk about them and things like that. But they never expand on it, and they never give you anything further about it. So I think it can work because it makes in a game like Dark Souls, example sort of thing, it makes the world feel bigger.
Yes. Yeah.
So absolutely. There's this notion that you can let the player fill in some blanks around the edges, have the central narrative kind of there, but you can let the player fill in, give them some extra elements. Go, that sounds interesting. What would that be? And you don't get any further, but the player then will fill that in for you.
Yeah. There's a talk. I think I've mentioned it before. It's 10 Principles of Good Level Design by, I think his name's Dan Taylor. And one of the principles is he talks about story is kind of shown, not told, and it's kind of that kind of principle of, it talks about this idea of the broken circle. So it's an image of a circle like a ring, but parts of it are missing, and it's like, well, the player is able to kind of fill in those gaps, and probably will find it more rewarding to be able to fill in those gaps, because they'll feel like they're a part of solving this narrative rather than just being told the whole thing. And I think this game does that with all these little nods to the villains, or this, like, you can figure out which this villain, this item belonged to this villain, or why is this here, or when the riddles come on screen, and being able to kind of figure them out and stuff.
I think making it optional as well, so it's not just being forced onto you, because like when you just get like a massive wall of text that's like, it's giving you a massive backstory into this whole area or blah blah blah, and you just, like, for me, I just kind of, my brain turns off.
No one wants to read that.
But if you find it yourself, it's like, oh, I found out this little thing, or you can just ignore it and keep playing, because like the gameplay is strong enough that you can just sort of do that.
I'll consider putting that picture on our Instagram, at Should Play Pod on Instagram, if you want to see the photo that David eloquently describes.
I mean, just to add to that, I'm going to go back to the original Batman film. So the Tim Burton one, the original Batman, this was 1989.
Yeah.
And I was I was 17 at the time, so I was very, very hyped for that. So I had posters on my wall, pics on my wall, newspaper clippings and cutouts on my wall for this film. I couldn't wait for it. I was, first afternoon it was shown at the cinema. I was in there. That was a Friday afternoon, so I just twagged school.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't twag school, sort of thing. So I was 17, so I don't think I had lessons that afternoon, because it was old sixth form style, which is kind of more like university, where you only had lessons at certain times rather than modern sixth forms.
Twagging means to
play truant, to play truant,
play hockey. Is it
play truant?
Yeah,
to go truant.
So
I was not going truant because I didn't have any lessons that afternoon, so I could go see Batman. So I went and saw it, and I loved it, and I thought it was great. But yeah, similar kind of thing. However, the games at the time, I was not so lucky, because there was I only had a Commodore 64, and there was Batman the movie, which was rubbish, and the Cape Crusader, where it's more like Fat Man because of the design of the sprite.
Right. Okay.
He's a bit portly. He's kind of waddling along. But still that's a good game though. But anyway, so Batman was always, and at the time I think I'd just read Killing Joke and Arkham Asylum. The graphic novels, I just got them. Arkham Asylum blew my head off because I didn't know what I was looking at.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've got a copy in my office. I was flicking through it before.
It's really obscure, and it's very different. It's very typical Batman very much. The artwork is impressionistic and things like that. So I was really into. I just got into this sort of, and superheroes. And this is the other thing to remember back then. Superheroes, even prior to this, you have to go. This is pre-MCU.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is when Batman. You had Dark Knight. You had Batman Begins and Dark Knight. That kind of went against the grain. The superhero films were not a thing. The superhero phenomena had not started at this point. It didn't start till 2008 with Iron Man, even though there'd been a couple of Hulk films, but she'd done nothing. So it was a real case of that this came along out of the blue, which was the different sort of thing. And you were saying about that award. That's why it's like back then it's like, because superheroes just weren't the phenomena that they are now.
Yeah.
They were in comic world, absolutely massive, Marvel comics and everything like that. But outside of comics,
mainstream,
and in the mainstream, they just weren't there. So this is why this game, I think, was a bit of it was unexpected.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and just did so many things well.
It built on, and this is just to come back to the combat. I'll give a nod because it does build on the Assassin's Creed games. Because the Assassin's Creed games deal with, especially when you get towards the end of the first Assassin's Creed and you're fighting big groups of enemies, and you're doing that flicking from one to the other and countering and pulling a knife. It's a similar sort of thing. It doesn't do it as well.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed. The end of Assassin's Creed 1, I remember being an absolute labour.
Yeah, because you
such a bore.
Yeah, but that combat, you could see what they were trying to do, and I think this takes nods from that. They get it right here.
Yeah,
and I think that's it's worth a look. So you again, when you get things right, you build on things that have gone before. So as a designer, you're always looking at stuff and going, that's nearly right.
Yeah,
but if we do it like this, we can get it right. And I think that's what they were taking from. And I think Batman Begins, the original game as well, I think that had similar combat. I can't remember about that one.
I never played Batman Begins, which is a surprise considering how much of
Yeah, absolutely. I'm shocked. I thought you'd have played it in your full-on Batman onesie and everything.
I did own a Batman onesie.
Of course you did.
I bought it from Primark. It was weird because, I remember this, it didn't have ears. It didn't have pointy ears on it.
So it was just flat.
Yeah,
Just
it looked
smooth.
more like Space Ghost than Batman. I've got tons of things on that I want to talk about. I think the introduction sequence to the game, when you get the initial cutscene, Batman's apprehended the Joker, that he's on route to Arkham Island or whatever, and then they're in the Batmobile, and then you at that moment when you take control of Batman and you're kind of walking through the corridors after the Joker. I think that 10 minutes, it's like 10 minutes it takes, and it's the credits are rolling while it's happening and stuff. Loved it. Just loved that whole section. Just kind of like introducing just kind of just the movement mechanics. It introduces you to all the kind of. They've got a few original characters in this universe as well. So like Cash and Frankie Boyle, the guard. It's not Frankie Boyle, is it?
I don't
Frank
think so.
Bowles, maybe.
Not
It's not Frankie Boyle.
I mean, give it its due though, sort of thing. It's cribbing Half-Life.
It is. Yeah.
You know, it's looking at Half-Life, like the opening to Half-Life when you're on the train, you're going through all the bits and stuff. I mean, it's doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So it's good that it does it, but it's on rails and you're just walking along. But yeah, it does introduce a lot of the good, and that's a good thing. Again, you take the elements from other games that
standing on the shoulders of giants kind of thing. Yeah. And just the bit where you're waiting for the elevator and it's like really struggling, and then Killer Croc comes out and it's just this massive thing, and you're like, whoa, and it's like and that's a brilliant use of foreshadowing, because and he's like, I've got your scent, Batman. You're gonna fight that at some point in this game. And that gives you something to look forward to. But yeah, it just introduces you to all the characters, introduces you to the world, and I thought it was a very effective way of doing it. Which I really enjoyed.
Yes, it is a good intro, and then used very well later on as well.
Yes, should we?
We can talk about that later. Yeah. But we'll probably reference that back later when you get to it. You've obviously
we don't have to go in any kind of order here. We'll just talk about things it does well. But yeah, you're obviously talking about the Scarecrow sections.
The Scarecrow sections,
something we probably all have as a good thing.
Yeah. Because and one of the things I sort of want to pull about this. So for those who don't know, Scarecrow is obviously one of the characters, one of the villains. He has this sort of neurotoxin that makes you see the world with your worst fears and sort of drives you crazy. But obviously Batman is the person. He's Batman, so he can eventually just fight his way out of it. Because I don't know what's Batman's worst fear. It's probably himself, isn't it? It's not living up to his parents.
Well,
it's not living up to what his parents wanted for him, I think.
And also the realization that he's actually mad. I mean, he dresses up like a bat and goes around beating
so it's
people
that's
up.
what I mean.
So that third sequence that you were talking about is building on that fear that he's being carried through Arkham.
So the thing with the Scarecrow sequences is the first one, they kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So the first one happens, you're heading down towards the morgue, checking something out, and then you go into this morgue and there's nothing to sort of do there, and you kind of get this flash or something.
You see you're trying to get Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon's been
you're tracking
captured.
Gordon.
Yeah, and you come across him and he's
dead. Yeah. So then you go into the morgue and there's been a sort of something's happened. Just there's a little flash or something.
When you're in the elevator going down, he coughs.
Yeah.
That's
it.
Like,
Yeah. So then that's the trigger that something's happened.
Yeah.
So then you go into the morgue and there's nothing in there. You come back out and you enter the morgue again.
Yeah.
It's a really good sleight of hand about the way they do it. And then there's bodies in there, and it's the bodies of the parents. And the Scarecrow. And then you go out the morgue again, and then the entire world is completely changed, and it's all this platforming section.
But you don't realise, like, when you first open it, it just looks like the normal corridor, and then you turn around, and then you're like, oh.
The one hint that you get is that the camera tilts.
The camera tilts
ever so slightly.
The music changes, and also if you look at Batman's eyes in those
they're glowing red.
They're glowing. Yeah.
So the good thing about this, and again, something as we sort of, the theme of the podcast that we can take from this, is that it's good every now and again to throw in different viewpoint, something different for the player to do
as a surprise
to sort of like, oh, we didn't expect to be doing this, because what it does, it turns into a sort of 2D side on stealth hide and seek type game, and you've got this massive scarecrow, and he's huge in the middle of this sort of diorama sort of section, and he's got these beam of light, and you've got to stay out of his vision cone, and you know the shadows, and you've got to stay in the shadows until you get up and you smack him, this light, and you come out of it.
Yeah, it almost reverses the Predator sections. Yes, actually those are stealth sections, but you are the predator and they are the prey. This flips it around. You need to avoid being caught by Scarecrow.
But it's also one of those themes of Batman, isn't it? That Batman works best in the shadows. His power is not being seen and everything. He's supposed to be this character of the night that is not about full on, being seen. So this kind of plays into that. But also you're weak because Scarecrow is massive. And so you can't do anything. You can't fight him, although there are these fight sections in there. So the second one happens. You start going down this. I can't remember what it is, but it's midway through, and you go down this.
It's in the manor.
It's in the manor. So you go down. You turn around into this corridor, and it turns into this endless corridor, which starts to do like a Dutch angle camera effect.
Yeah.
And you walk in, and you walk in, and you walk in, and you walk in, and it's just
it slowly flashes. It's like flashes lightning almost. Then the environment starts to change to
very well done.
A crime alley, which is where your parents were shot.
Yeah.
Well,
and
Bruce Wayne's parents.
And then you get into another Scarecrow sequence, and then the third one comes out of nowhere because essentially it's a bit of a tired trick these days. I think we saw it with like Inscription sort of thing, where it sort of becomes a bit meta, and it sort of does the whole thing about your game's crashed.
Yeah.
So it does your game's crash and restarts.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't remember this. When it came up, and I was like, god damn it.
Did you think your console had crashed?
Yeah, well, with just the irony is sort of thing. I was playing on the laptop.
Yeah.
And I was using my work laptop because I couldn't get access to my computer, so I was using the work laptop to play it. And one of our Dan, one of our colleagues, had just told me that morning that Teams had corrupted his laptop and had a big crash this thing. He told me that morning, so I was playing it on it, and when that happened I went, Teams, what have you done? Microsoft Teams has now broken Batman. And then what it does though, it does that thing about you're getting driven to the Arkham Asylum with Joker's the driver, flips that beginning, and then you end up with another Scarecrow sequence, really well done but it's those unexpected moments, and not to overdo it. Any more than 3 would have been too many. So
it's so good, that third one as well, and then the Joker points a gun at you and shoots you, and then it's like it acts like a game over sequence.
It says something like
move out of the way,
move your mouse to move out of the way or something.
Move out of the way of Joker's move your head to avoid Joker's bullet or something. But then obviously when you go back to it, it's not that. It's almost like that sequence in Metal Gear Solid 2 where it comes up with mission failed and fission mailed. But you can still play the game in that kind of time corner.
Because there was another game on the GameCube called Eternal Darkness. I don't know if you played that. So Eternal Darkness had these. It's a Lovecraftian game, but it has sanity effects, and you have this sanity meter, and the lower the sanity meter gets when you see these eldritch horrors, it plays tricks on you. One of those tricks it plays with you, it like pretended to delete your save file. So it'd be like save file deleting, and you were like, nah! It would turn it off. It would flip the controls. It would make all your arms fall off, or your limbs fall off. Enemies explode. The character would just do loads and loads of sanity effects.
Yeah.
So this was 2002, and that was really, and obviously, like I said, this game pulls so much elements from so many different things and builds it into this Batman universe seamlessly, and that's what's really really good about it.
Just it takes all the best bits about the Batman universe, like the setting as well. Like it's so perfect. It's on an island. It's in this like big asylum. It could not be a better location.
No. And it's why I'm just going to be controversial here. It's the best Batman game. It's better than any that came since.
I mean, David can't comment.
I can't know.
And you haven't even finished City or Arkham, and you have played Arkham.
I've got through most of City enough to know that I don't like it. I've never finished it, and I think that's comment in and of itself. I've started it about 10 times. And I've got quite far into it. I'm about 80% through, and I can't find the effort, and that's put me off Night, because I've heard Night's a pain in the arse half the time.
I played all 3. I don't remember. I think it's just obviously it just does it more. It's just more of the same
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It's like more different combos, more characters.
That's what I mean.
More levels.
But this was perfect in and of itself.
Yeah.
And its enclosed environment works in that better way. I found City sprawling and aimless.
Well, well, compared to
like,
Night.
it's like,
Arkham Knight.
It's just like, and I don't think it works narratively by turning half the city into a prison.
It's comic booky, isn't it?
It is, but it just don't. But Arkham Asylum is part of the Batman.
Yeah.
You know, by making half of Gotham into Arkham, it's like, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
One thing I was gonna say is like the Scarecrow sequence. Like, you know, when you die to anything really, or like if you fail a mission or whatever, you get those like really cool game over screens where you get like
the Joker
like context specific. So like if there's a mission, there's like one bit with Harley where you've got those two cops like hanging over electric water. I went in and I hit the rope straight away.
Yeah. Dropped him into the water.
Yeah. Oh, David.
Oh, you're a terrible Batman.
I didn't think about it. I just...
Clearly.
Yeah. I just went in and I was like, I didn't realise. Yeah. And then either that or I turned it off and I waited too long and then like I did it just as it turned on.
Yeah.
And then you get Harley coming in and like sort of taunting you
and
so like in one way it's really cool and at the same time it was annoying me to the like where you want to kind of do better, I guess.
Yeah, they are. I mean, obviously, like I say, the context sensitive, so it depends what fight you're in. So Scarecrow's got Bane and Killer Croc.
Like I think
Ivy.
I lost to Bane originally. I got him like right down to a sliver of health. And then I got killed by him, and he does the thing where he gets Batman.
That
and he
classic,
breaks
from the comic book,
because
there's that storyline where he actually, did break Batman's spine.
It actually says it in like the character logs as well. But
I will break you, Batman. Yeah, it's exactly. Good. I love that.
But yeah, I love the fact they have those sort of unique little.
And just to build on that, just the writing in general for this game is so good, and the voice acting is so good in this game. I could listen to the Joker on the tannoy for Arkham Asylum like all day. I could listen to the audio tapes all day. And just like some of the lines that they come out with, like one of my favorites is where the Joker's like, "What are you afraid of, Batman?" And he gives a few examples, and then he goes, "Me in a thong?" Like it's just so. And one of my favorite bits that made me laugh is just before the final fight, where you've been hit by the Titan dart, and Batman's trying to fight it, and Joker's like, "Right, Batman, you leave me no choice," and he gets a feather out and he goes, "Tickle, tickle, tickle," like that. He starts tickling him. That makes me laugh a lot. And the bit where it's counting down. It's like again just before that final fight, and he's got the TV sequences. Like I do this with my daughters all the time, and he's counting down the bomb explosion, and he goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then I do that all the time when I'm like, all right, girls, you've got 10 seconds to tidy your room up, and I'll do that, and they always it always winds them up. I love doing that. But yeah, it's just so, and it obviously the voice cast and the writing coming from the animated series as well. It didn't feel like there was. It's not the Batman animated series, obviously, but it's like that, but on steroids almost. It's like a really matured version of that that world, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would say, and one of the things I would say is as a bit of a criticism, I think, is that I don't know whether this was you saying there's cut content sort of thing, and I think that does become a little bit evident towards the end,
right?
Because I think the end kind of comes a bit. You suddenly get Poison Ivy just introduced, and it becomes like this big chunk, and then you just fight the Joker.
Yeah, that's.
I think the structure, the pacing of this is a little bit out of. There's a lot of I think the first half is really well paced,
Yeah.
and I think the second half is condensed.
Yeah.
There's a halfway point which is actually about 75% of the way through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sorry, go on.
So because it feels like where you think you're halfway through the game is actually at that 75% point, because there's less content after that. Like when you go down to Croc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically it almost becomes like a boss rush.
Right.
As you go Croc, Ivy,
You've had
Joker.
Scarecrow before then. So
Yeah.
you go Scarecrow, Croc, Ivy, Joker.
Yeah. There's 3-4 in a row, and it's like they either weren't confident enough to give you more stuff to do in and around the island to go sort stuff out, or they'd done it so much in the front end. I'm not sure sort of thing, but that end sequence seems to just roll one into the next, and it's like I can kind of see what they're going for, but I just think there's big chunks of it where the Joker's plan just sort of seems to disappear out the window a little bit, and you're traveling around, like you said, Scarecrow, you're going after Croc, you're going after Ivy. The Ivy sequence, I kind of understand, but I'm not sure it really. I don't know. There's something about the Ivy bit that just don't fit within the. It seems like it was a big. It seems like it's a bigger part, but it's just kind of there. We want Ivy in, and we want this plant.
Yeah, it's like she wanted to escape to help her plants. Harley lets her out.
Yeah,
and then she's like in the botanical gardens, obviously, because that's where she'd go. She tells you where the plant is, but then suddenly, Joker comes on the tannoy and says he's injected her with Titan.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like something's missing there. It feels like there's something else, and I mean, because those plants that are dotted around the island, they have they're nothing. You just run past them.
Yeah.
If one of the little bubbles gets you, it's like, oh, well,
a bit of health.
My health's going to come back in the next area. Is it just there's no? You've maybe the first one you go, whoa, a bit wary of this.
Yeah.
You go, there's nothing here, and I think I would have much preferred. I think I would have preferred a more. Like, I think Ivy and Croc kind of works, but I think the Ivy sequence just seems like from another game. I think it would have worked better in City.
Yeah.
Because City has those, like, Mr. Freeze and Ra's al Ghul bits and the Penguin bits underground, and Ivy feels like it was almost the sort of blueprint for, this is what we're going to do for City, and it doesn't quite fit in to the structure of this. Like, the boss fight as well is not great.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like it was massively out of place, because it's the asylum's just this area where all these villains were kept anyway, so they're all just hanging around or whatever.
I think I just wanted it. Me and the Joker.
Yeah.
I think the Ivy thing comes in, and it's like, she's going to take over and it's become more powerful than Joker, and it's like, I don't think Joker would have. He's too clever.
Yeah.
It's not going to. I mean, we're just talking Batman's stupid law, but
yeah,
it's just. I don't think Joker would have injected Ivy with Titan, because he knows. That's not good.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have superpowered plants now that are all over the place, and he suddenly realizes that, and I don't think Joker.
Yeah. It's almost like throwaway. Well, I've injected Ivy with Titan, and then it's just like, all right, well, now I've got to deal with this now. I kind of get what you mean. I think at the time when playing it, it didn't really feel out of place to me. But yeah, I guess it could have tied in with the story better. Again, it's almost like that. Like they cut Mr. Freeze because his motivations don't line up with the Joker's. Well, Ivy just cares about plants, so how does that line up with the Joker?
And it does just feel like a diversion. Like you're going towards the Joker all the time, and then it's like, oh, Ivy's appeared. You got to kind of go off and do that.
And it's like you said about the introduction in the intro sort of thing. We see Croc, so we're expecting Croc. The Scarecrow bits work because there's kind of these little diversions and they're placed throughout it.
Yeah.
The Ivy bit suddenly becomes this big chunk.
And it's introduced quite late on.
And you're like, oh, I've got to go do this all now before. And it was like, either they didn't have something to get before, they wanted something before to get to Joker. And I would have just preferred more island stuff, sorting stuff out. Something, I don't know. There's something about the Irish stuff that just feels we need it in there, something. And it just doesn't quite work as well as it could do.
It just felt like a bit of padding almost.
Yeah.
You mentioned it as a boss fight. We should probably talk about the boss fights for this game. So it is a criticism levied at the game. The boss fights aren't great, particularly the last one.
I was a bit disappointed. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you kind of it's leading up to this the whole time. Like Joker's making a Titan army of the inmates and everything, and then you go into this area.
What the Titan formula is, by the way, we are not so sure we've mentioned.
Well,
for those who don't know, it's a super growth hormone.
It's they
from Bane.
Narratively, they've been sapping venom from Bane's blood, and they've mutated the venom formula to create this Titan one.
That bit with Bane was pretty cool.
Yeah,
because I remember having my detective vision on, and
you
could see someone strapped up.
Yeah.
And then you go inside, and then he gets re-injected with the venom. But yeah, that last bit where I was kind of expecting a lot more in terms of the henchmen. Like you fight two jacked up henchmen on Titan, which you've kind of done throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
Like there's you fight one by themselves really early on, and then you just multiple times you just get two of them.
Yeah,
over and over.
And there are elements that I do like. I do like this fact because I like the one of the things is the good things about those fights are the actual when the normal guys come in.
Yeah,
and you can use them as bowling pins.
Yeah,
and I really like that. Or, they pick them up and they throw them at you when you get back. Like that. So the use of those kind of things as elements within the fight.
Yeah,
which lends it because essentially. Those the big henchmen, they charge at you or they throw bodies at you. When they charge at you, you tap the left trigger and you throw a batarang. It knocks them off. They hit a wall and then you smack them a few times and that's it.
Yeah.
When you get a bit later, you can jump on their back and ride them, and that's fun.
Yeah.
So you're just swinging your arms about, but it gets repetitive.
It does. Yeah, but you don't fight that many Titans.
No, I thought it was. I think because they're so repetitive, in my head going back to it, I thought there was loads more.
Yeah, I did. There's one early on which is half a fight really because its brain explodes halfway through because the Titan formula's not finished.
Yeah.
And then you fight two in the botanical gardens. There's like one in the elevator shaft.
There's Bane.
Bane is basically
the
one.
same.
Yeah, and then there's the two right at the end before. So it's not that many times.
But it sticks out for some reason because I think it's one of those things. Unlike the Scarecrow bits, which escalate and become different, this is just the same thing because I'm in a different place, but it's another. As soon as you get into those big round areas or big square areas, okay, I'm probably going to be. Oh, here we go, because they need space to run at you and charge. Because there's no change up to their mechanics. If they had changed the mechanics for each fight, that would have been better. And I think that's the problem with them. It's just the same thing. And then like you said, and then the Joker fight. Joker sort of wanders around swinging aimlessly and run about, and then he jumps
wiping his claws.
He just jumps up on a platform and also as well, Joe. This is the other thing I think narratively suspect about the game. He'd never tighten up. He'd never inject himself with Titan. He just wouldn't. He's Joker. Joker's all about brains.
But I think
it's not about brawn.
Yeah, what he wanted, it was for Batman to succumb to Titan. That's what he wanted, and then for him to have a big fight with him at birth as these Titan. I guess it does kind of fall apart at that kind of point.
It does narratively. I think the character motivation it's just not Joker. Yeah, because Joker, like I said, he engineers this entire thing to flood Gotham. With it. And then, get into Arkham. The whole point of him getting into the asylum and stuff, and then he just turns himself into a big monster at the end. And then you just throw some hooks in his back and hit him 3 times, and it's like,
and it finishes so fast.
It's less of a boss fight than Ivy. Ivy has 2 stages. It's 1 stage with the Joker.
That's what I mean. So I think that I think what this is. And it's probably a symptom of production. I think they ran out of time. They had a thing.
From what I heard, they had a pretty smallish studio in the first place, and then time restrictions as well.
The same thing that happened with BioShock when they got to do the final boss.
I mean, it's
we're just doing BioShock.
Yeah, this is 2008 game design, I suppose. It's the same as what you saw with like things like Gears of War, where you have to fight Ram on the back of this train, and it's stupid and awful, and it's just like basically breaks the game and it's rubbish. But there wasn't great end bosses around this time. It took something like the Souls games to come along and do something a bit different. Even the Resident Evil games after 4
Yeah.
The bosses.
I still think Metal Gear Solid has good boss fights as well.
Yeah, because they're different.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Is they've got to be different.
And you utilise your skills within them. This doesn't utilise Batman's skills particularly well.
And a lot of the time, it's just it's maybe slightly different, but they just chuck a lot of henchmen in at certain points during these fights.
Yeah.
It's just more henchmen.
Yeah.
More of the same.
Exactly, because I think what they had is they had a series of set mechanics, and that's what they made in the time they had available with the team they had available. And that's nothing bad about that, because what they've actually created is great, but they've just... And I think they spent time on the Scarecrow bits, but I think I don't know. It seems like the big fight bosses were just like, we'll just hulk them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I am annoyed that we never see a Titan-infused Killer Croc at any point in the Arkham trilogy.
Yeah.
That should have been something that happens, and I was like, surely they'll do it in Arkham City.
Well, I'm surprised that the way you actually have because the Croc fight isn't a fight.
No.
And I think that's the one weird thing, because the Croc, you go down into it for those, you go into Croc's lair, and you essentially, he's in the water, and again, it's just like, he pops up every now and again, comes charging at you, and you just tap the left trigger to throw a batarang, and he falls off in a really comical way. He's
whoops! It's like slipping on a banana peel into the water.
And then you're just going around finding these Titan pods, and then you have a into the camera Uncharted style run out, and that's it. So one fight where you would have expected the big boss, chunky boss fight, don't happen.
It is a shame, because I remember going into that and the atmosphere was brilliant.
It really.
You're in this really dingy, dark sewer, and I'm trying to remember how he first introduces it. I think you start going onto the planks or whatever, and then he
comes charging towards you.
He charges towards you on top of these.
He starts making sounds and stuff, and you hear him, and then as soon as I realised I could just double tap, sort of hit him with the batarang, I was like, oh.
It becomes a non-event. You're just wandering around at that point, climbing over.
I mean, granted, when I was going around, it would still catch me off guard a few times. You'd still get a little bit of...
There's bits where, he comes up and you're like, where is he? And he's behind a gate which he smashes through.
Yeah.
That's but like you say, you don't actually fight him.
Yeah, and then it becomes just a very gamey kind of fight, I guess.
But in a way, you're... Batman. I mean, look, let's be honest. Batman wouldn't take Killer Croc in a fist fight, would he?
No.
He's using his gadgets instead.
And it's fine, but you only use one gadget.
You use the batarang, you use the foam stuff, the
right at the end,
the explodey bat spray.
You use that. But right at the very end to get away from him. But I think this is the thing. What they miss a trick on. You in combat, in the flowing combat, you've got punch, you counter, you can swing your cloak, you can jump over them. There's things you can do that allow you, that give it sort of a variant style. The boss fights are very prescriptive.
Yeah,
you do this or you die. Even though they're open form, like the henchmen, you wait until they charge you and you throw a batarang at them, and then you're thinking you hit them. There's nothing else you can do. There's no other way of fighting.
It does feel like when you get the bat claw, you can pull henchmen towards you. There should have been a boss fight where you've got to pull something into some. Yeah, but
that's rubbish.
It is rubbish
because it's a set piece rather than within the allowing you to do it. So when you have open plan combat, you can use the batarang. You can pull people towards you with the combat
claw.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you get these gadgets like the crypto thing. That would have been, how could they have included that somehow?
In combat.
Yeah. I know it takes you a while, but you could have used it to sort of stun their collars or something.
Yeah.
Think they could have had a boss which was, I don't know if it's an electro boss in Batman or something like that.
Maxi Zeus maybe.
You could have used that to sort of charge something up, or you could have had to, while you're avoiding something, there's something around the walls where you're sort of unlocking stuff, and there's things that they could have done loads more of.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that gadget because I mean, I don't know what it would be like on keyboard. I played on controller, but the fact you're moving.
Yeah, it's really good.
His thumbs move with yours.
Yeah. There's one bit, with the one with the zip line. Zip line one. There's a bit in that where I was in the open world, and there's the sniper on one of the towers.
Yeah.
So I zip lined over to him, and aimed at him, and when I hit him and knocked him out.
Yeah,
Wait, really?
Yeah, you can just zip line into him.
Well, it shows you that quite early when you get it, because you go across the chasm and the baddies are like, "Hey, you can't get us, Batman," and then they go, "What's he doing?" And then you ram into them. The bat line launcher.
Line that up. But what I would have liked that could have been utilised in a boss fight somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe you were chasing someone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's utilised a little bit in the Killer Croc.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a one-off prescribed moment. Yeah. These kind of things, that zip line could have been like, you could have zipped and just zoomed across and hit somebody, and that could have been part of a boss, but a bit more. There's things that I don't know. I think the bosses are the weak element in this game.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because they're one of the coolest,
they look great
elements.
Yeah, they all look great. The visuals are great, but I think you're so used to that freeform combat because it's so damn good.
Yeah.
That when you get that, this is the way to get past this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I mean, it's one of the criticisms levied at it, isn't it? And I think when you listen to kind of the designers talk about this game, they had set things that they wanted to do really well. They wanted to do combat well, Predator sections they wanted to do well. They wanted to do the world and the characters really well. Boss fights obviously wasn't on that list.
No. To be fair, having recently just finished the new Spider-Man games, the first one, Marvel Spider-Man, it's the same problem. Boss fights are boring. They're not particularly that great. They sort of do this thing until you get this point where you can then swing in and hit them. But the combat's an evolved version of this, because it's Spider-Man, so lots more stuff you can do, and it's great. And swinging around, and the general play is just amazing. Get to a boss fight, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You take away all those elements that are like really good, but
it's prescribed how you've got to get them. That's the thing. It's like you've got to do L1. I want to throw stuff out with the webs, and you've got to knock them out that way, but you can't. It's like that's the way.
Yeah, this is the way you have to do it, kind of thing. You can't experiment.
Which is what Dark Souls broke.
I was going to say
the Soul series broke, because the Soul series don't care. It's just hit them, take their health down, because they've got no gimmick. Most of them. That's why things like Bed of Chaos are rubbish.
Yeah.
But it's that you get to the first boss, and it's just hit it till its health bar goes. Yeah. Any way you can.
I think, again, I keep saying Metal Gear Solid as well, does it? Because when you fight like the end, that sniper duel with the end, there's multiple ways that you can go around doing that.
Or Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is amazing for this, because there's a boss in Resident Evil 4 at the end of the castle sequence, Salazar. Just before then, you get a rocket launcher.
Oh, yeah.
So you pick up the rocket launcher, and Salazar opens up, and it's this massive boss for two things. You just fire a rocket launcher in his face, and it's done.
Yeah.
It's like the Indiana Jones moment in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's that. So it's like, it's that whole sequence. But you can. But if you don't have the rocket launcher, if maybe you've used it on a previous boss or whatever or something, you can still shoot him and take him down with your normal weapons, and it becomes a big old boss fight. But you can just use that rocket launcher and just kill him.
Yeah. Boss fights. There's got to be we must be able to create a primer for boss fights somehow. Where this is how it's done. But this is an example of how it isn't done with Arkham. The other thing we kind of criticised, but I wanted to come back to, was the detective mode.
Okay.
Being a bit crap. And feeling like you've got to be in it all the time, but it's good in a sense in some ways, because it makes you feel so powerful, being able to kind of in Predator mode see where all the enemies are, see where the vents are. You're able to use it to find all the Riddler stuff. Even in combat, it's useful, because if an enemy has got a weapon, then they're targeted in red, and you've got to deal with them straight away.
I think one way they could have done it, and I don't know if they do this in later games. I don't think they do, but they could have had, because like when you're fighting the Scarecrow and your eyes glow.
Yeah.
If in Predator mode your eyes glowed, sort of thing, but if they'd have given the enemies the ability to see that.
Okay, right. They don't do that, I don't think, with the
which I think would have been a good counter. So to get you can use it when but when they turn around, they can see you, because they can see the glow up in the.
Or I get it, or at least have something where, like, you know how later on they had the collars, or they had the explosive gargoyles. Have it where, okay, in this challenge room, the enemy, if you use detective mode, then the enemies
they can spot you.
They can spot you, but you could also turn it on. Then the enemies get a ping where you are. Then you move, and then you actually kind of attract them to that location.
That's what I mean. Like, they could play around with that, and I think, or even, I mean, the simpler way would just be put it on a cooldown.
Yeah.
You can only last for like 10 seconds before it sort of and then fires out, and you've got to wait for it to come back on.
Yeah, maybe.
Even just like a level where you're forced to not use it or something.
My gripe with it wasn't necessarily like, I don't know, I didn't really feel like, I get if you have it on the whole time, you're not taking in like the environments and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's like that wasn't my issue. One of my issues was like Batman. One of Batman's monikers is the world's greatest detective, right? Yeah. And the only bits where it's even slightly, trying to figure out what happened in this situation is where you use it to, you use detective mode, you go in first person, you find literally the only out of place object in the scene, and then that gives you it's the tobacco in the air, or it's the whiskey in the air, or it's Harley Quinn's fingerprints, or it's Quincy Sharp's blood, and then you're just basically following this dot to dot trail through the environment. They do some interesting stuff with it when you're trying to locate Ivy, and it's just a percentage of, it's basically hot and cold, the closer you get, the number goes higher, which I kind of preferred to just following its breadcrumb trail.
It's a similar thing to I don't know if you ever played Condemned.
I think I played a demo of it.
So Condemned was a launch title for the 360. You play it's a very good sort of horror detective style game, but you've got lots of detective. But then again, in the first game, it's quite prescribed. The second game did the detective stuff a bit better. But again, you're utilizing UV lights to sort of find stuff and highlight clues and things like that. A bit more free form and open, but again, very very specific. And I think again that took probably elements from that as well. This did.
Yeah.
But I do think that the detective mode it essentially just becomes find the enemies mode.
Yeah. It's just use it to find a thing. Whereas if he's the world's greatest detective, I kind of wanted to actually do some detective work, maybe. What I wanted was Return of the Obra Dinn or Case of the Golden Idol, but you're Batman. But then this would have been...
It would have been a different game. And I also think as well, if they'd have done that, it would have probably turned off players. Because I think players wanted the
time, they don't want to figure... I don't want to figure things out. I just want to beat stuff up.
Yeah, very much. So I don't think it gets it wrong. I just think it's a bit overpowered. So I think one of the things you take from this as a designer, if we come back to what we're trying to sort of do, is to sort of look at the powers that you give your player and balance them. If it becomes overpowered, that you see your testers 90% of the time utilizing the thing that we just thought you'd just use this to solve stuff. Then you need to either make a choice to sort of do something to nerf that or turn it down or whatever. But I still just think a cooldown or something would have been the simplest way. Just turn it off. You can't use it so you can only use it sort of thing just to sort of scan where people are, and then it turns off.
Or have disruptors in the environment. So there's a disruptor in this environment, you can't use detective mode until you've taken that out. Almost.
Because they do it with the neck collar guys, don't they? But they only do that once, don't they?
The guys have got the neck collars on from a certain point in the game. Where if you take them out, then they alert other people.
Yeah, but there's only one bit where it's actually a loose state, I think, isn't there? When you're trying to get up to the top of the cage.
Yeah, you're trying to take out the commander.
In the cages, and you have to go all around and up to the top.
Yeah.
So you take him out, and then.
Yeah. So Joker's like if you detect the Batman almost then you've got to. Yeah. But I get it. Yeah, I think there's something there that could have just been evolved, and I can't remember what City and Arkham Knight do with it.
I think there is more to do with it in City. I seem to remember there's more sort of challenge to using it, but also, because I don't know. It's just one of them things. It's a good. You've got to remember this is 2008, and this is really the first time this kind of thing has been sort of incorporated into it. So, and I think they need to be praised because it works. It works,
and it makes you feel like Batman. Being able to see, okay, this guy's deceased. This guy, his heart rate is creeping up because he's the only one left, and he's discovered all these.
I absolutely love that when you scan them, sort of thing, nervous, terrified.
Yeah,
the little thing like
his pants.
Yeah, really works. It works so well, and you when you got one left, and you're literally just playing with them.
Yeah.
just flinging your batarang down other places to go, and you're dropping people you've hung up right next to them, and you're
that's so fun.
Those sandbox little elements, they're great, and that's what I mean about giving you those elements of freedom. And that's where we come to back to the boss fight. The boss fights don't work because they don't give you those elements of freedom.
But the upgrade system and the first thing I would get is the inverted takedown. Hang down and you can hang up from the things. That's got to be the first thing you get.
Yeah, it's the win attack. Then you just because as soon as you take one down, you jump around so they don't know where you are.
Yeah,
and then you wait for the next one.
Yeah,
but you drop one.
You
cut the rope.
Yeah, brilliant.
The XP system.
Yeah,
that was I mean, it's like a good way to kind of slowly get you those unlocks, but I wasn't thinking about it at all.
I think you don't have to.
Yeah,
you just kind of every now and again go, I can upgrade something. And
how do you get more XP? Is it like higher combo and stuff like that?
Yeah. Or like there was one point where I was just going around taking out. I was like 75 away from leveling up, so I just went around and took out some of the ivy plants.
Right.
You get 25 XP for each.
Yeah, you can. Any sort of action you do gives you. It's when the bats fly out. Anything you do.
Right.
So this is another great thing that I'll say this game does as well. Very small touch. Joker teeth.
Yeah.
Joker teeth are amazing because basically it turns traversal of going from place to place into a. Just there's something to do, and it's these little joke teeth, and you get rewarded. So rewarding me for moving from place to place with having these little things, and all you got to do is tap L. But it's like there's a great little bit because you see the teeth split. There's these little basically these little false teeth moving around. You can hear them, and then when you hit them, it's like they go, and you get this really cool sound effect.
Joker laugh like
and it's that, and just use these three of them. You get Riddler, you get points for them, and I think that's a really good idea of like. Just keeping you entertained while doing something of just walking around.
And this is again, they are part of the Riddler challenges, aren't they?
Yes.
The Riddler, not the Rizzler. The Riddler. We don't want him in this game. The Riddler, right? The Riddler challenges, and it's interesting. Like looking at some of the comments on this game, like some people don't like the Joker teeth.
Oh, really?
But don't interact with them.
But I was listening to a video essayist on YouTube called Monty Zander, so it's a bit of a shout out, but he does a good breakdown of this of Arkham Asylum, and he talks about player motivation and how you can have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic is like the task is fun in and of itself. So in terms of the Riddler challenges, completing the riddles and figuring out and finding like, oh, there's Black Mask's mask, and then scanning it and figuring it out, or finding Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul's toe hanging out with the name tag, that's fun, and those are fun in and of itself. Like the audio tapes, you get this this really cool, well written, well voice acted sequence that adds to that world building. So again, that's fun. The teeth. Well, I think arguably, like in the essay says they're not fun, but I think you're saying that is fun. You tap the batarang button, slices them up, and you get XP and stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say as well is, like, for me, when I was going through the levels, if I saw the teeth, I knew I was going in the right direction as well. Yeah, you see it and you're like, oh, okay. There's new things to interact with. Exactly. You know that you're going in the right way. Yeah.
And there's also the Spirit of Arkham stones.
When I was a lad, I used to eat Hovey's bread. And then
when they brought the degenerates of Gotham before me, I was so disgusted
I spat out my bread.
I chundered into my own lap.
Did you find many of them?
I found like half of them.
Yeah.
I kind of at some point I stopped listening to them.
Yeah, they do get a bit like that. But do you know what I totally forgot? And only when I was watching this video essay, is that when you get all the Spirit of Arkham stones, because they start to create, like the what they talk about starts creeping into like modern day stuff and characters from the actual what's happening then now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, come and find me, the Spirit of Arkham, and it's meant to be like it's giving you enough clues to figure out that the Warden Quincy Sharp has taken on the mantle of the spirit, like this Amadeus Arkham guy. And you go to the location where you left him, which was near where you see Clayface in his cell, and he's there's all these scribblings on the floor and stuff, and the idea is like he as the warden, because the other thing that isn't really talked about much is like the asylum is not good at doing its job. Like, they use all these Victorian torture methods. There's electric chairs. There's inmates that have clearly had like almost like been experimental tests
like
on their brain.
On the head.
There's like they've got all these chains and collars and all this kind of thing. All the skulls that are everywhere on the island.
That's
so there's like at one point there's just a head in a jar. There's just a whole head in a jar. Like,
I took a screenshot of that actually.
Yeah. Like, and the kind of the thing that isn't commented on by it's like overtly in the game. It's like the warden's corrupt and like the backstory of Amadeus Arkham is like he. It tells you about, his family got killed by this guy, Mad Dog, so then he tortures him to death, and then he just uses that mentality on all the patients and just sees them as all these kind of vermin that he's just got to deal with. And the line is like the new warden, the current warden, is taking that on as well. And so there's no wonder all these inmates want to overthrow the asylum, and they hate Quincy Sharp, and they've all, if anything, they start being in the asylum's made them worse. Yeah,
because I remember going through and like you just see the state of the place, and you're like this isn't a hospital. This is just a torture building, torture island.
Yeah, exactly. But
no one mentions it. No one really.
And then there's like throwaway jokes about how sometimes patients get lost down Killer Croc's lair and stuff. Like, that's like a patient's been eaten by another patient. What's going on?
You imagine that's like someone saying, "Oh, we just lost one of them in hospital."
Like in Killer Croc's,
fell down the well.
In the medical facility, they've got Killer Croc's cage where he gets put now and again. There's human skulls in there.
Yeah.
Like. But at no point does Batman pick one up and go, "Hang on a minute."
Considering he's supposed to be doing these lethal takedowns where he's hanging someone upside down, all the blood's going to go to the head and probably kill them.
And he's the great detective.
We don't think, but Batman doesn't kill anybody.
No, not directly.
He just leaves hundreds in a vegetative state.
Just beats them to within an inch of their life.
Yeah.
If anything,
some of those punches when they're on the floor, especially the slow motion ones.
There was one moment right at the beginning that threw me completely off guard. I was talking to Adrian about it. I can't remember if I said to you, but it's like you're going through that sort of tutorial stage, and you get the first room that has the Joker gas in it or whatever, and there's a prisoner that is like hanging off the edge. And you go over and you can pull them up, and I was like, "Oh, he's saving this prisoner. Like, he's not just going." And then he just punches him, and it's like, because there'd been a bit of combat up to this point, but like the sound effect you get when he punches his head into the ground.
Like, this guy was no threat.
Yeah,
you've just helped him up off the ledge.
You save him, and he's like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
Go to sleep.
Yeah. The combat is brutal and things like that. And some of it you are like, "Oh my lord, that's quite good lord, should I say?"
Good lord. Yeah, it's Adrian's catchphrase.
Good lord. It's like, that's a bit much, Yeah. Come on, Batman.
That beginning section was really good for just getting you into it. Like, I remember when you first open up the menu. We haven't really talked about the UI much, but the UI is beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool.
The front end of this game is amazing.
Yeah,
just like Batman on top of the thing, and then the close up.
Yeah,
and
black and white silhouette.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think the color scheme for that is basically a Batman color scheme. You've got black, white, and yellow.
Yeah, and blue.
And blue.
Grey.
Does it have blue in the UI? I can't remember.
Oh, in the UI?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the menu? So I'm talking
about
the background.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, in the UI,
yeah.
Black, white, and yellow.
Yeah, which is basically...
It's almost like Sin City colour palette. Like, that's just pure black and white, the comic books and stuff.
And like all of the like the images for the different skills and stuff. So like you'll have like a little image.
That's great.
Yeah, for like you select it, you unlock it, and then it gives you this really cool just black, white, contrasty image of Batman doing something, and like you just have these really cool stylized images of Batman just looking angry or like he's punching someone or
and they're used to the credits as well at the end, aren't they?
Yeah.
Credits. Yeah, the front end and the back end of this. That's the thing with this game. That one of the great things about this game is presentationally and tonally, it's spot on. Yeah. It's absolutely it nails that from every angle. So the moment you turn this on, you get that moody music, and you get that those Batman just stood there overlooking the city, and then when you choose the bats fly off, and you can choose the different menus, and then you get the sort of just a slow pans across his chest and the bat sign, the texture details. It's just everything's just great. The little musical piano stings, things like that for the Joker stuff, the Riddler stuff. Sorry, there's loads and loads. Yeah, presentationally, I cannot fault this game. And again, from a visual style, it's such a shame you spent 90% in. I mean, detective mode.
Yeah, but the UI, like, even just like the way they've got a lot of stuff like slightly tilted, slanted, instead of just being like perfectly square aligned, they're really kind of creative with just how they kind of shape everything and the spacing on that.
One aspect of its visual presentation that I don't think it gets right, that we probably should mention, is its female character design.
Okay.
So the two main female characters in the game, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. Harley Quinn, when she was in the animated series, was kind of fully clad in like Jester outfit. Whereas in this, they thought, nurse's outfit, nurse's in a mini skirt and
2000, what was it, 2009?
Well, it's of its time, isn't it? But we probably
You've got to
just need to mention it.
Yeah.
I know, and like Poison Ivy, she's just she's in her knickers and
it's like shirt. It's like leaf lingerie.
Like leaf.
Little gilded kind of ivy patterns going on.
Well, and as Adrian mentioned to me the other day, like Arkham City's worse. Like Catwoman's just got the front of her outfit unzipped.
Do your nipple. You catch your death.
And also, she's not wearing a bra. Like, Catwoman's going to be flinging around all over the place.
Not good.
They're going to be popping out. You need to be wearing a sports bra for the kinds of activities that you're going to be doing. Honestly,
robbing and
I mean, I think you're right. Those you look at them now and they're problematic, and you're like, okay. I'm always of an opinion sort of thing that if I'm playing a game and my partner walks in at certain parts of it, would I be embarrassed about what's on screen? And like if my partner walked in and there was Poison Ivy bits where she's sort of floating around and everything, and it's just shirt and a thong, I'd be like,
Adrian, why are you zooming in on that Poison Ivy character trophy?
Well, I forgot about the trophies.
I think that those moments are a case of all right, so I'm always a believer in that, and if I feel embarrassed, I'm like, I wouldn't, things have gotten better. Obviously, things have gotten better. I don't know what they're like in Night. I don't know what that's like.
Arkham Knight has a section where you are carrying Harley Quinn over your shoulder because you've captured her and you're kind of carrying her somewhere, but obviously she's wearing a skirt, and so if you turn the camera around, you can just see right up that. So it's not much better.
I mean, and this game's not sort of thinking. I mean, I remember, Shadow of Mordor. And if you played the second one, Shadow of War, they turn Shelob, the giant spider, into a sexy lady.
Because of course it is.
But like we've said, it's kind of its time. Lots of games were doing this kind of thing, but we need to criticise it for that. It just speaks to the maturity of the studio at the time and the designers at the time.
Yes, it does.
I would like to think that if this game was to come out today, they would have more.
I don't think it would. Well, I don't think. I mean, you could look at probably. I've not played them, but I mean, maybe look at Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
I think they represent. I've not heard anything about the representations of the. I mean, Harley's in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that follows more on the recent sort of Margot Robbie portrayals in the film. So it's maybe I don't know. I haven't really looked at them, so I couldn't say for certain whether they're better or not. I just hope and would imagine that they probably are.
I've just got some quick fire things that I want to mention that I think this game does well. Bi-directional gameplay, so when you're going back and forth through environments that you've been before, it throws new things at you, whether it's snipers, the crazy inmates that jump on your back, or the plants, or the gifts as well, like the presents that Joker leaves behind with the teeth inside, or at one point an enemy. That's great. The damage to his cape and suit as you progress through the game.
I looked this up later, but his stubble grows.
Yeah,
really? Yeah, like
that I didn't notice.
It grows
I noticed all the cuts and things.
Yeah,
but that is cool.
Yeah,
So I mean, this is object permanence, isn't it? So it's things where you make something have, rather than just be superficial or just gone in an instant, you show a sort of story within the character, or you show things you leave things on screen to show that things have happened here, whether that's blood splatters or everything like this. We've talked about this in our sort of in some of our lectures and things. And so it's showing that, but and under character, the fights they've gone through, Batman's cape gets ripped.
He gets like a scratch on his face at some point.
On his chest, the suit gets a bit of a cut, things like that. I was always a bit worried that it would have been nice if the cape got ripped to a point where you couldn't do the back kicks and stuff. Because he flings it out and then the thing like that.
Or you had to adjust. It was quite like wobbly almost in the
even if they just did that in a harder mode or something. Like you get to a certain boss fight and it's just you lose the cape.
Just the environment is so cool. Like even just like walking through cobwebs and stuff, I think was cool. The bit where you find the Batcave and you walk through a waterfall and then it goes on and then the lights all come on. Oh, it's just so cool. I just love all that stuff. And I love this game.
The fact that at some point he just like says just offhandedly, I built a Batcave on Arkham a few years ago.
Because I'm Batman.
Oracle's just like, wait, when did you do that?
A few years back, don't worry.
Just in case,
I will say though, this is another thing from a 2000, mid 2000 to late 2000, walking radio conversations.
Do you have a problem with it?
I don't like them.
Yeah, but it's better than a cutscene.
No, let me run.
Those why? Because it makes you walk.
Slow down. You have.
He puts his fingers to his ear and he's like,
he's walking along, and those conversations just go a little bit too long sometimes. They're just like, just let me run.
Yeah, but then he'd be like, Oracle, I'm heading towards the Batcave. That's me if I'm running. That's what I sound like.
If we were running, so if I was running after about 5 seconds, I'd be like, hang on. Hang on, let me just get my breath. What are you saying? Oh, I can't hear you, sorry. But it's Batman, so, and I don't think it would take you out if you were just able to have those conversations while running and moving about quicker.
I found it funny how buff everyone was.
Well, I did say that. That's the 2008 Unreal 3 Burl.
The Burl slider was up to max.
It just like even just the normal doctors.
Yeah, everybody
there's no gym on Arkham Asylum. I didn't see that.
Everyone has
steroids.
Because to get around Arkham Asylum, sort of, you got to be swinging, you got to climb. There's no stairs anywhere.
Ladders,
everyone's just jacked up. It's like, it's just ripped central.
Right, should we move on to feedback?
Yeah.
We had a couple of bits of feedback. Mike Duncan on Blue Sky said, I have a lot of PC games, but none that I've played through multiple times without any loss of interest except Arkham Asylum. It does everything right, but Batman best of all, the good parts of the Silver Age and the best parts of the Grim Dark. Totally agree with that. And it's for me it's one of only 3 games I've ever platinumed because I just wanted to do everything.
Okay, fair enough.
The other 2 are Assassin's Creed 2 and Saw, the video game.
That took a turn.
Yeah, only because
Is it because it's like a dead easy?
Yeah,
it's just story progression.
The trophies for Saw, the video game, you can do it in one playthrough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Essentially, and there's it's saving at a certain point and then restarting from the last bit and doing it a different way. Yeah,
I think I might have done Peter Jackson's versions of the King Kong, whatever that title was. Peter Jackson's King Kong, that launch title. I think that had achievements that were dead easy to get. I don't know. Bloodborne was my crowning achievement.
But the other one as well is like when I did BioShock, playing through that again for this podcast felt like a slog. it felt like it had aged and not aged well.
Yeah, very much so.
Whereas loading this back up and going back into those combat sequences and the Predator sections, I could not wait to go back in again and do it all. And I want.
Well, that's because this has a manageable. It's one of the things we said about Bioshock. Bioshock had an unmanageable level of systems.
Yeah.
It's too many, and so you don't use any of them. Whereas this has a manageable level of systems, which is what I think they get wrong. Again, another thing. There's a lot of games where I think the sequel adds too much and ruins the purity of the first one. Left 4 Dead is another one. But this one, especially at night, when you keep getting new gadgets and loads more gadgets, and it's like, oh God's sake, which one do I use here?
Yeah. Well, it comes back to that thing where, what I was talking about earlier, where they've got like key pillars they want to get right that they focused on, and that's what they did with this, and what they didn't really do with Bioshock. Bioshock was like they spread themselves too thinly. So totally agree with that, Mike Duncan. We also had Sam Slatter on LinkedIn. Arkham Asylum's combat system set the bar for third-person action brawlers for basically the entire 7th and 8th generation of games. Mad Max, Sleeping Dogs, Shadow of Mordor, just to name a few. It's fun. It is fun. The combat system.
Shadow of Mordor is probably the best evolution of it. Shadow of Mordor is great. That's such a great game, Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah.
Not what we're doing next, though. Maybe it is.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to that quite soon.
For the list.
We'll find out soon.
Just to mention as well, we've got a special Christmas Tetris episode coming out on Christmas Day. So just heads up that's coming. It's not. It's like a bonus episode. It's not part of the.
You've ruined my gag.
Oh, did you have a gag? Sorry.
I was going to say, because you said, what's the next game? I was going to say, the next game is Tetris. And then, but I was like, but not really.
But not really.
I was going to do.
Oh, sorry. Well, how about you do it anyway? And we're
going to do it now. It's ruined now.
Sorry,
Stuart.
All right, sorry. I just wanted to tell our listeners that we had a Christmas episode coming and to look out for it. So anyway, the verdict then is: Batman Arkham Asylum a game every designer should play, and why is the answer yes?
Why is the answer yes?
Yes.
Actually, to be fair, I'm curious to hear what, because you've not played it before, David. So I'm curious to hear your verdict.
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously.
Good.
It's interesting because I've not really played many like third-person-esque games, I guess. All right, no, I suppose Dark Souls is very much, but like the way, the sort of over-the-shoulder kind of games like that. But yeah, no, I massively got into this. Like the combat, it's simple enough that it just gets really addictive after a very short amount of time. The atmosphere, even if the atmosphere is the only thing that you take away from it, I mean, the combat's great and everything. Like that's one thing that you should just go and play it. Have a look at the atmosphere, look at all the characters, the little environmental set dressing. If anyone is wanting to do like environmental design or character design, that alone is enough reason to kind of go in and play it.
And I think having those pillars, choose what's important for you as a designer for your game and focus on those. Like, it doesn't matter that this game, the detective mode, isn't perfect. It doesn't matter that the bosses aren't great, but it just does the combat and the Predator sections and that world building so well that's why it kind of sticks with everybody when they play it.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yes, I will say yes. This is something you should. If you haven't played it, do yourself. It's not that long. It's about sort of 10 hours.
If you had to choose between this or Bioshock,
play this.
Play this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like, who's it? Mike Duncan, was it? Who gave us the comment?
Yeah, Mike Duncan. Yeah.
I'm similar to him, sort of thing. I have been back to this several times and played through it, and completed it many occasions, because it's a good, solid. You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played it last time. Coming to this, probably pre-pandemic, but coming back to it, I was like, oh yeah, this is really great.
I was never bored playing it.
No, it doesn't. When I
was playing Bioshock, which I haven't played before, I did get bored.
Yeah.
There are bits where you're tracking back on yourself.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, I've got to get through this.
Yeah.
But with Batman, there's always something, even if it's just like the little teeth on the ground, giving you the next little connecting bit to go
there's
to the next
that
section.
little sequence which we haven't mentioned where you've got to go outside the island and just glide around on those little islands.
Yeah.
He only does it once, and it's great because it's like a little gliding puzzle. You just like looking around, and there's also a Riddler challenge on one of them, which you can go find and just moving around, and it never gets old. Oh, hang on, there is one thing I do want to pull up. We've mentioned this, and I think this is a thing that could have been done. I hate having to continuously tap A.
When opening event.
Opening events down. I think that works in the first couple. Let me do it. After that, I know I can.
Or at least have an upgrade, which upgrades your gloves so you can just rip the vent off with one hand.
Or once you get the grapple, just pulls them off.
Yeah,
that would have been much better because it got really irritating.
Even if it's just hold A.
Yes.
Because having to tap it.
Yeah, most modern games now have accessibility, because it's an accessibility option as well, which will, because you have to do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, if you have an accessibility, for whatever reason you can't tap A, you ain't playing this game because you can't get through those sequences.
No.
So, and I know that's a 2008 thing, but I think it is something we should bring up as a designer now.
Yeah.
Like, you should be looking at those accessibility.
It's almost quick time event type.
Yeah, and it adds nothing.
No.
It just detracts.
Does it make you feel like you're opening an event?
No. It's just.
If anything, holding would have made me feel more like I was pulling on something.
Yeah.
Or have the control mimic more of that. Yeah.
A to open, and
I mean, Batman should just rip it off with one swoop.
So I think that's something that is something where, looking back on it now, that's very much of its time where every action had to be doing something. It's like you're not adding anything. This is subtractive by addition. So you're actually making the experience less. So I did what I did. I had thought about that. I wanted to mention it, so I just put it here.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode, which means it's time to announce the game we'll be playing in the next episode and talking about it. And it's your turn, Adrian. What have you got? Any thoughts, David? What you might pick?
Have you given any clues?
I've given Stuart.
He gave me a clue, actually. He said it's a first-person game. That was the clue that he gave me. So it's not Dark Souls.
It's newer than Batman.
That was the two clues that he gave me.
Oh, that narrows it down.
Can you think of a first-person game that's newer than Batman?
I think there's a couple, actually.
Yeah, there might be a couple.
There might be three.
There's at least three.
Yeah.
No.
You can't.
I can't,
sure. You won't get it. You might get it because it is a game I have mentioned around, sort of thing. But the next game we will be playing for our next episode, well, it's obviously not Tetris. It's going to be Tetris, by the way.
We will be playing.
No, sorry, I ruined that joke. Yeah.
You will be playing. Hopefully you'll be playing it, so hopefully you'll go for this. It's Titanfall 2.
Oh.
Okay. I've never played Titanfall. Are you hungry, David?
That was my stomach. Hopefully the mic didn't pick that up.
Yeah. You played it?
I've played a bit of. Wait, was it Titanfall 2 or
Well, Titanfall was the kind of the multiplayer only launch title that came out for the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Titanfall 2 is the game that got sandwiched between Call of Duty that year and Battlefield that year, and kind of got just forgotten about, and it's better than both of them, and it's quite simply one of the best first-person shooters ever made.
Okay.
Narratively, story-wise, it is incredible, and it also, as well, this is Respawn, who go on to do Apex Legends. But this is the people who created COD 4, Modern Warfare and everything like this. Is Vince Zampella and I can't remember the other guy's name. This is. It's incredible. Titanfall 2, because I've just started playing it again. It's ace, and it's just so good, and it does so much that you can take away from it. So it's a really good linear first-person shooter experience.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, I haven't played it. I kind of fell out with,
and it's dirt cheap.
Good. Yeah. That's good. As a tight Yorkshireman, I approve. But yeah, I kind of fell out with first-person shooters. Just kind of generally, I think I played Modern Warfare 2, and then I was kind of like, right.
You lost the spark.
Yeah, well, that's because if you play Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 2 is good, this is the game they left after that.
Yeah.
They called Respawn, because they fell out with Activision.
Okay,
thinking back on it, and I'm not quite clear, but yeah, they formed Respawn, made Titanfall, which was like I said, a multiplayer weird thing. But Titanfall 2 has no right to be as good as it is.
Okay, well, I look forward to playing it. You can play along with us. Email your comments and questions on Titanfall 2 to shouldplaypodcast@gmail.com with the subject Titanfall 2. Or even if you've just got general questions or feedback on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. If you're passionate about game design and love the podcast as much as a Gotham architect loves gargoyles, don't forget to subscribe, like it, leave us a nice review, share on social media, tell your friends about us. We are at ShouldPlayPod on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads and YouTube. Join the conversation and suggest games you'd like us to feature in future episodes. All that's left is for us to say thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
I'm Batman.